Hi everyone, this is Philip from Library 21C, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make your very own Animal Crossing New Horizons plushie. For this particular project, we are going to be using Marshal the squirrel, one of your island's many possible residents, as the basis for our plushie. There are several basic stitches that will be utilized during the hand sewing of this plushie. These include the running stitch, the back stitch, and the blanket stitch. In order to create our Marshal plushie, we're going to need to cut out all 3 pieces of our pattern. Next, use a piece of chalk to trace the outline of your pattern onto your pieces of felt. The different colors chosen here will represent the color of Marshal's fur, his ears, and his clothing. Remember that for this plushie you will need 2 of each of these felt pieces, one for the front and one for the back. Next, select the colors of thread or embroidery floss that you will use for sewing your details onto the plushie. It is good to choose high contrasting colors in order to make the details stand out. Before you begin sewing, use your pattern pieces to get an idea of the layout of where each of your pieces will go. Here, we will use a basic running stitch starting from the back side of the felt in order to connect the 2 pieces together. When you have completed one side, the same running stitch can be carried across to the other side of the plushie and used to sew the next piece on. This part gets really repetitive, but it's very easy. When you've completed a portion in one color, cut off the excess thread and tie a knot to prevent the thread from slipping back through the front of the felt. Like so. Our next step will be to give Marshal his face and other details. Don't be afraid to use your pattern as an overlay to remind yourself of where some of those details are supposed to go. A couple of basic stitches back and forth will let you draw lines to create the facial details. Our next step will be to sew details onto the front of Marshal's sweater. Looping a stitch several times over itself in the same spot can help to create the look of a button. Line up and repeat this technique several times to complete the look of Marshal's sweater. A back stitch can be used to connect the sweater piece to Marshall's body. Like so. Our next step is going to be to connect the two halves of our plushie. This can be done with a simple running stitch or with a whip stitch around the outside edges. When beginning this part of the stitching, start from inside This will allow you to hide the knot from your thread inside your little plushie here. And continue all the way around the edges of your plushie. When you've reached about the halfway point, it's a good time to consider adding our polyfill stuffing. This is what's going to give our little plushie his squishiness. While this is more than you'll need more than you think. I would recommend using a pencil or chopstick or other similar thin object to be able to ensure that you get enough stuffing into the narrow limbs. Now, before you finish completely stitching, be sure that any other stuffing that you want to put inside your plushie is in place. Now, I know you're thinking, what about his tail? It doesn't actually look like a tail. How are we going to separate that and make it look like a curled up squirrel tail? The answer is a simple running stitch. We're going to start right around here. Not through to here. And loop back through. To hold it in place. Then, carefully skimming just under the layers, we can actually backstitch like so. To give us some delineation with his arm and his tail. Ta-da! And there you have it. Your very own Animal Crossing New Horizons Marshal plushie.